Okay, today I'm going to show you guys how to do color correction with the Premiere Lumetri for CC19. When you open up the project, you'll see that we've got 4 different shots, and what we're going to do is we're going to leave the first half of the shot alone, and we're going to color correct the second half of the shot so that I get to see a before and after of your work. First thing we want to do is we want to hit the color bar up here, and that will open up the Lumetri scale. We need to see scopes, so if you don't see any scopes, go to Window and go to Lumetri Scopes. You might be seeing more scopes than I have right here, so let me pick like a bunch of them. There we go. And so all we really need is this one that's called RGB Parade. So we'll just right click here and we'll just start turning off scopes until we've just got the RGB Parade. And what's nice about this is that if we can make these shapes look the same, that's how we'll know that we've got a good white balance. So we'll click onto the first the second half of this shot to get our color correction started. Now this was shot with a very low contrast codec, and so we need to figure out a way to kind of make it look normal again. And so one way we'll do that is we will, in basic color correction, we'll pick this first LUT that says Rec 709, and then we will drop our black level, which kind of sets the ceiling, and then we will, or sets the floor, and then we'll raise up our white level, which will help set the ceiling. And we'll see that the shapes aren't perfect, so let's do a little bit about white balance, and let's click on his shirt and see if that does a good job. And it does and it doesn't. Because we've got the green and the blue aren't matching, so we need to kind of match up our green and blue a little better, and we've got too much red. I'm going to pull down the highlights next so that I can boost up the contrast and boost the shadows a little bit. And now we're kind of getting into something that looks pretty good. Now I think this red is a little distracting, so I'm going to go into curves and I'm going to pick that red, and I'm just going to, this is hue versus saturation, so we've picked that hue with the eyedropper, and then I'm just going to pull down the saturation a little bit, and that's our A and that's our B. Now I think I might want that to be a little darker as well, so I'm going to go to hue versus luma, pick that same hue, and I'm going to darken it by pulling it down a little bit. And you'll see that it's affecting her shirt as well. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of a soft vignette around them. And I don't like using the vignette here. Let's take a look at that. We'll eliminate the feather, eliminate the roundness. We'll increase the feather and back off the amount. little bit less. The problem with this vignette, now this one looks kind of good right there, but the problem with this vignette is that it doesn't really always render the way that we see it here, which drives me crazy. So what we'll do instead is we'll just click that off, and we will go to our effects controls, and we will I'm gonna select our Lumetri. I'm gonna hit Copy C for copy, and Command C for copy, and Command V for paste. And I'm going to reset it, and I'm going to create a circle mask, and we will just make it the size of our subjects. Because the whole idea of the vignette is to draw our eyes to the subjects and kind of create a little bit of a lighting effect. And so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the exposure a little bit, and we'll see that it's happening inside the circle. So we'll click invert here, and that will put it outside the circle. And so let's A/B it right here. I'm going to back off just a little bit on the exposure. And then I'm going to go back to our first one, and I'm going to raise the highlights up a little bit. Okay, let's move on to our next shot. We've got a singer, and so the first thing we want to do is to white balance the shot. And so we'll click on that dude's hair right there, go back to our Lumetri scopes, and it did a pretty good job. Basically, now those shapes look about right. We're going to set our black limit, having that just touch down low. Then we're going to set our high limit. And then we're going to adjust our shadows. Pull up our highlights a little bit. Okay, and so this is a good basic start. Next thing that we want to do is the spread light is a little too bright. So let's go into our curves, and let's pick this color red, and then let's just lower the saturation a little bit, and we'll A/B it. Okay, and let's once again, in this shot we want the singer to be the focus. So we will hit Command C, Command B to paste. We will reset the second Lumetri. We're going to put this mask around her. Feather it out a little bit. And we will set that to invert, so that all we're doing is changing things outside the mask, and then we will just lower the exposure. And now we've changed the lighting so that she stands out. Let's move on to the next shot. So in this shot, basically what we want to do is we want to make everything black and white with with just the color of this tie happening right here. And unfortunately his skin tone is really close to this color, so we'll have to do this with the mask from the start. So what we will do is let's first white balance, and that puts the Lumetri in the chart, and then we will create a mask that's just around this dude's tie. Actually, let's delete this mask. Let's draw one. And we'll feather it just a hair. And the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to go to our curves. We are going to pick this color, and then with the hue versus saturation tool, and then we are going to pull back the saturation on everything but that color. And we will see that better when we copy and paste this and we invert this mask, and then we basically have our black and white image. And so let's go back to our first Lumetri, pull back the saturation to the left to get it away from his face, and we'll go to the second Lumetri and we will completely eliminate all the saturation. And now we've got that look that we want here. If he does get up and move, we are able to create a we can follow him with this mask by basically setting a keyframe, and then if he gets up and walks, we can move that mask around to follow. Okay, in our last shot we're going to do a day for night gag. And so first thing that we want to do is let's set a white balance to bring in the Lumetri. Let's come up with our scopes. Let's set our black level. Let's set our white level. We need to make the look a little bit better. Let's pull our highlights down and our shadows down. Increase our contrast a little bit. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is go into the creative section, and they have these looks that we can toggle through to kind of get us to something close in our world. We're going to pick SL Blue Day for Night, and so we'll come up here and we will find that SL Blue Day for Night, pop that in. Then we are going to copy and paste that Lumetri. We are going to reset it, and we are going to create a mask around our guys. We're going to invert it because we want it to be darker on the outside, and then we're just going to pull the exposure down. We'll click on our first Lumetri, and it already looks a little bit better. This will look a little more realistic if we pull out some of its saturation, because at night we don't really see full colors. So we'll pull that back a little bit. And now let's go back to our second Lumetri, make it a little darker. They're popping out a little bit too much, so I'm going to pull down their exposure just a little bit. Let's see what happens if we pull down the whites a little bit on them. Okay, so that's feeling pretty good. I kind of want to see in the second Lumetri the exposure to be even a little darker. And there you go. So there's our before, there's our after. Now we can render it. So File, Export, Media. We're going to make it Apple ProRes Lite. We're going to match our original settings. Name it Lumetri Workshop. Your name. Export it and post it on Canvas.